Joining us now is attorney Tom Yu. He represents the deputy who threw the woman to the ground. Tom, you and I spoke pretty extensively last night about this case. When you look at that video, the sheriff is calling it disturbing. What do you make of it?
Good morning again. The takedown itself is a use of force technique that are trained by the sheriff's department for deputy sheriffs on suspects who are resisting either detention or arrest. So that's within the department policy, and that's how many deputy sheriffs and police officers are trained by the state of California in dealing with essentially non-compliant suspects.
So while it looks bad when you watch it, right? But this is a technique that is used pretty regularly.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at a use of force incident, any use of force incident, I don't think there's a use of force or a shooting that's pretty or that's this incident specifically. It's a takedown. It's not. I know some described it as slamming the woman to the ground, but the takedown essentially provides deputies with a technique to safely take a suspect into custody.
But the question here, of course, is, was the use of force excessive? And where is the line there where we understand, okay, the takedown happened, looks really bad from the public. What would make it excessive or not excessive?
The factors in determining whether or not a use of force is reasonable or within department policy is viewed from the deputy's point of view. It's from a reasonable police officer's view. For instance, if the deputies punched the woman while on the ground in handcuffs, I would think that's unreasonable, that's excessive. If there's any kicks to the head or anything in this kind of scenario, I would say that would be excessive, but none of that happened in this case.
It's my understanding that these two were cited and released. Were they ever arrested?
Well, a cite and release it's a de facto arrest. It is an arrest, but the two individuals were cited and given a court date to go back to court to face charges if the district attorney's office is going to press charges.
And I think that's where the confusion lies too, is that there's a lot of missing information. We've seen this video, but we haven't seen surveillance video from the store. We haven't gotten, other people's stories as to what happened or why these two, were the ones who were suspected in the first case of a robbery.
Yeah, I mean, in order for a individual or suspect to be cited from a store, the store has to press charges. The deputies will go on scene, they will interview the shopkeepers or the agents or the loss prevention officer. The deputies will ask the store owner what happened and whether or not they want to press charges. So the mere fact that these two individuals were arrested and then cited for either theft or robbery charges shows me that the owner themselves wanted to press charges against the two individuals involved.
And what makes cases like these so hard is the court of public opinion. So many people have watched this video. You see the calls for justice, but there is actual procedure that has to happen. So what happens next for the deputy to determine what happens here?
Sure. So what has already happened is that an internal affairs investigation has begun. My client and his partner into the circumstances that led up to their use of force. The Internal Affairs Bureau will interview all parties involved, and they will essentially compel the deputy. They will make the deputies, under the pain of insubordination, to give a statement to the Internal Affairs Bureau as far as what they knew, how they responded, who did they contact, why did they detain the two individuals, and then using that lens then to justify or not justify the actual use of force.
I covered the George Floyd case extensively. I think this is getting a lot of attention because in the George Floyd case, it was a fraud case. He said with the knee on the neck, "I can't breathe." This woman says in the video, "I can't breathe." She's an African-American woman. How does that play into, we now have this historical case that happened. These types of videos are going to come out and people are going to ask the tough questions of why would a police officer act in this manner?
Right. I mean, in the George Floyd case, I think everybody in this country, maybe a few, except for a few, would agree that was excessive, right? You put your knee on someone's neck for 9 minutes, and in excess of 9 minutes. Here, my client had placed his knee on the shoulder blade of the female because she was not submitting to the commands of the deputies. She was resisting while on the ground. So the deputies have to control the suspect to take her into custody. there was no period of time where her airway was cut off, from the videos that I saw at least. So when she was moving around the ground, the deputy has to maintain control and take control of the suspect, place her in handcuffs, and then afterwards assess her medical conditions and treat her if needed. So I think they're nothing alike from the George Floyd case and what we saw from the June 24th incident.
All right. Tom, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
Also,
for having
you were
me.
a sheriff's deputy for 14 years, so
Yes, I
well
was.
versed in many of these training exercises as
We
well.
appreciate your insight. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.